Welcome back, everybody, to another courtroom reality check episode of Lockdown 23-1. That's right, today we're jumping back into an Ohio courtroom to witness a defendant get sentenced for her role in the death of a young lady that happened to have been killed right in front of her own children. But there's a catch to the story, and that's where the reality check comes in. I'll break it down here in 1 second. First, of course, as always, if you're new to the channel to enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is where you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my beautifully assorted playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. Now, before we get into the courtroom for sentencing, let me give you a little backdrop on the story. Because 2 people were convicted of the crimes related to this lady's death, and one's already been sentenced, the shooter. Summit County prosecutor announced Friday that 20-year-old Denzel Pope has been sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years for the 2024 murder of 24-year-old Paige Callick outside her home at Summit Lake Apartments on Socrates Place. Pope was convicted earlier this year by Summit County jury of 2 counts of murder with firearm specifications, 2 counts of felonious assault with firearm specifications, and 1 count of having a weapon while under disability. Authorities said that the shooting happened in July 2024, about 2 hours after a physical altercation between Corvette Pope, which is Denzel's sister, and Callick at the Summit Lake Apartments complex. Prosecutors said that the siblings walked away from Corvette's apartment in Cicero Plaza to Callick's residence. Callick's 3-year-old son exited the home first, followed by Callick. Denzel Pope then shot her in the torso on her porch. Callick, a mother of 2, had recently celebrated her birthday and died from her injuries at a local hospital. The shooting took place in front of her son, and she was killed with a shotgun. Now, you can only imagine how scared those kids were running away. Both of the siblings fled the scene. Denzel Pope was later arrested in Chicago. And earlier this week, 26-year-old Corvette Pope was sentenced as well, and that's what we're going to witness today. Even though she wasn't the shooter, she was still involved in the situation, the altercation beforehand, and fled the scene with her brother. If I were to guess, nobody called the cops. But either way, let's get in the courtroom and witness what the non-shooter gets sentenced to in this case.
All rise, please. Summit County Court of Common Pleas is now in session. Your Honor, Christian Kirsten presiding.
Thank you, Lady Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Mitchell, go ahead and call the case, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're here today for State of Ohio versus Corvette Pope, case number 2024-08-2683B. We're scheduled today for sentencing.
First off, you know her parents loved Corvettes. I don't see why else you would name your kid one, right? Can't imagine sending my kid off to school named Ferrari or Mitsubishi, right? No, sir, man. Corvette's kind of cool, though. What would you call her for short? C-Vet? I don't know. And what's up with this broken heart tattoo, man? I wonder who's responsible for that. She went downhill after that relationship. Or, you know, I'm not from Ohio. It could be gang-related. Maybe someone in the comment section knows a little bit more about that. But either way, let's henceforth.
Ms. Pope is present in the courtroom today with her attorneys, Attorney Kotnick, Myers, and Vizza.
Thank you. Go ahead on behalf of the state.
Thank you, Your Honor. We do have representatives from Paige Callick's family here today. It is my understanding that there might be at least 1 victim impact statement read today. I will defer to Elizabeth Kisner on that. Before they would speak, Your Honor, the state just wanted to briefly state Ms. Callick was gunned down on July 28th of 2024. She was gunned down in front of her toddler son, and feet away was her daughter. To say her death was senseless is an understatement. At the time of the shooting, Paige was at home with her son preparing a meal. She stepped out only briefly, was gunned down by Denzel Pope as his sister Corvette Pope watched. The state is asking for 5 years in prison for Corvette Pope.
Thank you. All right, on behalf of Ms. Kalich's family.
Your Honor, the victim does not wish to be on video camera.
Now, the courts is going to hear the victim impact statements, and that's when the family and friends take the stand to speak about how much pain this has caused them, and typically share how they want the defendant to get sentenced to the max. In some rare anomalies, though, I've seen the victim's family get on the stand and forgive the defendant. Go over there and give him a hug. You know, so it's a very personal situation, but at the same time, there's not much to learn from them, so that's why I bypass them for the most part. But what we are going to roll into is the defense attorney speaking on the defendant. All those good, sweet nothings that try to spare her a maximum prison sentence.
Anything else on behalf of the state?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Kotnick, on behalf of Ms. Pope.
Thanks, Judge. On behalf of Ms. Pope, she does acknowledge that it was a tragic, senseless loss, and she does apologize. She's always been remorseful that this happened, and she's going to tell you that herself as well. She is a mom too, and she has 2 little kids, and I know she's going to get the chance to see her kids, and Paige won't, and she understands that, and that eats away at her that this was a tragic, senseless loss, and she does take responsibility for her actions in this case, and that's what led her to testify in this case. So from our standpoint, we worked out a plea agreement, and she did agree to testify against her brother. And that's unique a lot in the courthouse situations. A lot of people don't testify against co-defendants or against their own family members. But she made that decision because she understood how what Denzel did was so wrong, and she still takes responsibility for her part in this role. But she understands how wrong his actions were that day, and she agreed to testify so that there would be justice for Paige at the end of the day.
Sister rolled on the brother. You know, this ain't nothing new. The defense attorney's over here acting like it's an act of valor. Come on, man, it just shows that she'll do anything for herself. Even put her own brother under the bus when she probably started the whole fight. I don't know the deep details of this case, so I'm not gonna stamp nothing on nobody, but it don't look like she's apologetic one bit. If I were to guess, bet it all. She just cares about herself. That's it. But it's a good try, defense. It's a good try.
But we're going to ask the court to give her a different sentence than the state's asking. They asked for no more than 5 years. She's already been in jail for a year without her children, so we're going to ask for something lower than that. So we're going to ask for the court to give her credit for time served and impose probation, and then allow her to go back to Chicago to be with her children, understanding that decision is up to the judge completely. But we did want you all to know that she does understand the magnitude of this. She is sorry. She has a minimal record, and you all sat through trial, so I don't need to rehash the facts, but you heard the facts of the trial, and then you heard from Corvette. You know, she was not honest at first, but then she did come clean with the detective during her interview, and then agreed to testify, and because of her testimony, it's our position that Denzel would not have been convicted without her testimony. That's our position, and we're asking the court to consider that we think that he would not have been convicted. So given that, Judge, we're asking you for a lower sentence, and we'd ask for Corvette to be appointed.
Once again, I believe she said she wasn't working with detectives in the beginning, realized it was about to go down an even darker hole. She was going to get charged with murder, life in prison. Hell no, bro, you gotta go. Send me down that yellow brick road straight to the detective's office, ma'am. I got a few things to say and hearts to break. I don't know, man, I'm putting a little cinematic twist on this, but the defense attorney's going for the stars, man. Fireworks. Time served, ma'am. She's already been down a year. The defense attorney tried, huh? Ain't no way I could see this girl getting time served. But then again, you know, a year and some change is a little penny. And she wasn't the shooter. And she did snitch on her own blood brother. Do you think these things should count when it comes down to sentencing? Nope, a mother got killed on her front step with a shotgun while cooking a meal for her kids. Both of them shouldn't see the light of day for the rest of their life. But now let's hear what the defendant has to say. I'm looking forward to this. If I were to guess, there's probably going to be a few crocodilians.
I wanted to apologize for my actions the night of Paige's death, and I am truly sorry to her family and friends and her children for my actions, and also my brother's actions. And I hope one day that you guys could forgive us.
She ain't remorseful, not one bit, Bobby!
Thank you.
Shooter or not, get the canisters ready.
Well, a couple things. You know, I reviewed the pre-sentence investigation as well as the written victim impact statements. I sat through the trial last week of Denzel Pope. I listened to the evidence, and what astonishes me more than anything is that over a physical fight, the death of someone resulted. And if this is how people in their 20s handle controversy, our society is doomed.
I bet you the squabble was over something super petty, too.
Because that is not how we handle controversy.
Nope.
Furthermore, I love the way that you have somehow turned all of this as if you're the hero. I understand that the state has a responsibility to maybe make a deal with the bad actor in order to get the worst actor. Make a deal with the devil and get the devil's other half. But you are not innocent in this. I knew it from the time you testified. You minimized your behavior. Your friend Honesty took the stand, and she, by the way, I believe is the only one that told the truth that day. You weren't going over there to get an apology. Who goes to get the apology? The apology comes to you. You were going over there to beat up Paige, and that's why you had Honesty and your brother with you as backup. So for you to sit there and claim all of these things, I was not born under a rock, neither was the jury, and they didn't believe that portion of your testimony. You had guns in your house. Your brother clearly came out of your house with that gun.
Thank goodness for judges and jury members like this. They handle the cases and see shit for what it is. That girl is not innocent in any way, shape, or form. Shooter or not. She went over there to start some more shit.
You have children in that house, and you let him store a gun in that house. You knew he committed a robbery in February in Youngstown, was on bond, knew he was charged with weapons charges, wasn't allowed to have a weapon then, and still let him have weapons in your house. So you are not an innocent actor. You are not the savior of the state's case. I believe the evidence was strong enough they could have proceeded and convicted Denzel without your testimony. And you'd be looking at significantly longer time in prison. That being said, you are not deserving of community control. And therefore, based on the facts and circumstances of this case in consideration of the relevant sentencing factors, applying the minimum sanction the court has determined will protect the public and punish the offender without imposing an unnecessary burden on state or local resources, I'm imposing the following. On the amended charge of involuntary manslaughter, a felony of the first degree, I'm giving you an indefinite sentence of a minimum of 5 to a maximum of 7.5 years in the Ohio Department of Corrections. On count 7, obstructing justice, I'm giving you 36 months in the Ohio Department of Corrections. I'm running those 2 counts concurrent and not consecutive for a total indefinite sentence of 5 to 7.5 years in the Ohio Department of Corrections. I find that these charges clearly do not merge based on the evidence and the acts that happened during and after.
Look, she's making a face like she can't believe she's going to prison for 5 to 7.5 years. It's because she really truly thought, by everything that she's did, testifying and all this, that, and the third, that she was probably going to be going home. Not today, ma'am. Follow the smoke trail. Alright, go ahead and follow that Amco oil cloud straight to the bunk, ma'am. That'll help you lay down at night. Soothes the muscles. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't matter if you snitch on your brother or not. The courts are still going to give you a little bit of smoke to taste. In some situations, of course, but a lot of people might be saying to themselves that the judge didn't give her enough time. But you heard what she said. You know, if it would have went a different way, she would have been facing a lot more time in prison. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to make sure the eviler side of the evil gets the max amount of time. The state's attorney or prosecution typically break down these kind of deals with people when they ain't got that much evidence, and it could, you know, go to court. They could get a conviction, or it could be tossed out and nobody's held accountable. Justice for that family goes straight out the window. So me personally, if I was a prosecutor, I probably would have done the same thing to make sure that someone goes to prison for this crime, you know, especially if the evidence is light. A lot of people think that these prosecutors probably just do it because they want to get it done and over with. That might be the case in some situations. I don't know. I've never worked there. There's some things that we can only assume. But one thing you ain't never got to assume is the content gravy train on this channel, it never stops. So if you're new and enjoyed, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave. And more importantly than anything, ladies and gentlemen, y'all be easy, be safe, and stay free.